Good afternoon, teachers and educationists. A warm welcome to you all. I am Priyanka Mukherjee. With a legacy of hundreds of years and a presence in 170 plus countries, the mission statement of Cambridge is to drive excellence through the pursuit of education, learning, and research. We explore, we collaborate, we innovate to spread knowledge, aid understanding, and spark inquiry. And Teachers of Tomorrow is our endeavor to create this vibrant community where teachers can connect, collaborate, and learn from each other, as well as seek guidance from the experts in this domain. And webinars like these provide us that opportunity where we can exchange ideas, learn from each other, and also focus the implementation of these ideas. We are extremely elated to have with us Barnali Mukhopadhyay Majumdar. She has had multifarious exposure in the domain of education across national and curricula. She possesses a postgraduate degree in botany and an advanced diploma in bioinformatics and a PG diploma in educational management and leadership. She subscribes to the epithet that education should inspire learners to embark on a journey of exploration and intellectual risk taking. Her topic today is extremely relevant. It is the future of assessments and going beyond the traditional testing formats. So, without further ado, I would request Barnali. Barnali, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, for that wonderful introduction of mine. Good evening, everybody present over here. I can see a huge number of educators and facilitators who have joined us today this evening for this platform of Teachers of Tomorrow and are ready to listen to something called the future of assessment. I really thank all of you from the core of my heart for taking time out this evening to join the webinar. You had an extremely engaging day. It's just the start of the week and the beginning of the session in school. And I know, as I've been a teacher myself for a long, long year for both the national and the international curriculum, I know how busy the day has been. But all of you have joined over here, and that shows your enthusiasm to be a part of this leading webinar that is there. And also it shows your passion for teaching and learning and knowing the new things that is there. So with that note, we start with our session today. Priyanka, may I start?
Please.
Okay, thank you so much. We all know this man, someone who is very famous, Albert Einstein. Absolutely. All the guesses that you have been making in your mind is absolutely correct. And this is a quote with which I always start my workshop. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. This is something which is very close to my heart. And I would request my audience today to quickly put a few words about their thought on this quote in the chat box. A very quick response, maybe a word or two, just a word or two, maybe a short phrase which is there. Know your abilities, accepted, very true. We'll have a Q&A, okay, absolutely. Assigning task according to capability. It's a very true. Okay, what is your thought about this quote? Divergent thinking, considering everyone, each child has his or her own nature of learning. Very true, each person has a special capacity. Right check to be given, foresightedness, uniqueness, okay. Work on your strengths. There are some excellent responses that we have. Differentiation, individual differences of learners, perfect. Just on this note, as we move on, please keep your thoughts going through. Please keep putting down your thoughts. No problem. We'll go through all of them. And what I understand that my thoughts are similar to your thoughts. and what we think together is the same thing, that every single learner, every single is a individual, every student in our classroom is different, and they have their own capabilities and their ability of their learning. That's what makes them unique. And that is why this quote comes out to be so true, that a fish, by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Absolutely. So if the learning style is different, and if our learners are different, and we talk about student-centric learning, then how are we thinking that assessment should be the same for everyone? Aren't we? Are we doing real justice to each one of them, or should we be thinking in a different line? That's what we'll be discussing today. And let's see how we go through this next 20-25 minutes. And there will be a lot of takeaways for all of you from my end, and I will also have a lot of takeaways from you all. So let it be a dual process of exchange of ideas, thoughts, and our concerns that we have about the education system of today and the assessment specifically. Moving forward, the golden circle. I'm sure many of you are quite familiar with this. Yes or no? Can I have some responses in the chat box? Are you all familiar with this golden circle? You can relate to this picture. There are 3 levels in this picture, and it talks about the why, how, and the what. And this is not only, yes, I can see some hands being raised over there, some responses also coming up in the chat box. Excellent. Yes, so many of you are all familiar. And we all know this, that this is so very relevant, not only in the classroom scenario, but also in our professional and personal lives as well, in every single sphere. So we will talk about this. We'll stick to our golden circle, which was a theory devised by Simon Sinek, and we will move forward as we proceed today. So we first come to the understanding of what. So what is it? Let's start with that what over here. There's a picture given over here which is quite familiar to many of us. Yes or no? Many of us are familiar to this. There's a picture. Now, in this picture in the background, so do you consider this to be an examination or assessment? Could you put your response on the chat box? Examination. Examination, examination. Okay, exam. Great. Again, examination. Okay. Oh, so it's all going for examination. So are these 2 words then different? The word examination and assessment. We are familiar with it because we are very comfortable with this word called examination. Although assessment has been a part of our system, both, okay, some are giving responses both. Although assessment is, the term has been there for quite some time, but we generally don't tend to familiarize ourselves with this system of assessment. But I see there is a mixed response of coming of elimination, style of eliminating, examination. Both are different. Assessment of learning. Okay, that's great. So how are the 2 words different from each other? Examination and assessment. Assessment is wider in managing. Great. Any other response that we get? For examination, summative assessment, short-term assessment, both are little bit similar. Exam is one way, exam is formal. Assessment is a continuous process. Assessment is evaluation. Examination typically refers to a formal test or series of tests. Okay, examination is the process. Assessment can be any way of evaluation. Assessment is tool for both student. Oh, great. That's wonderful. We have an extremely engaging audience today and very proactive. That really takes me away. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so now moving forward with this, if we put all of them together, is this what we come up to? Where assessment, so if we sum up whatever you have written and said in the chat box, let's see. So assessment is more constructive, comprehensive, continuous, multifaceted, and holistic. Whereas examination, we say, is limited, traditional, summative, structured, and time frame bound. So if we go further, may I request Priyanka to please put a link for reference in the chat box. So assessment is a broader process of evaluating a student's learning, progress, skills, and abilities over time. It considers a range of outcomes, including cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. It occurs continuously throughout the learning process, offering ongoing feedback, and utilizes diverse methods such as quizzes, projects, observations, and portfolios to assess various aspects of learning. Assessment provides comprehensive feedback, highlighting strength, weakness, and areas for growth to support the student development. And that's what we all educators aim to at the end, that is there. Whereas examination, something which we have all gone through, our parents have gone through this process, maybe even their parents have gone through this process. So what is it all about? It typically measures a student's knowledge, understanding, or proficiency in a subject specific or in a particular topic. Examination often focuses on testing memory, recall, and understanding of the content that is given. It emphasizes on performance at specific point in a time, such as the end of a course or academic term. It usually consists of standardized formats, which we all are quite aware of, like the essay type questions, the practical assessment, the MCQs, and it primarily provides a grade or a score as feedback, and which actually limits the learning or the areas of improvement in a learner. And that's what is our major concern. And that's why we need to understand the contrast between the two terms, assessment and examination, as we move ahead with this. Now, there's a little bit of food for thought for all of you. Identify the feature of a good assessment, and please use the chat box to put in your response. Okay, somebody has already put assessment for learning. That's great to see. What could be a good feature? Using a rubric to be able to assess various skills of the child. That's a continuous. Providing feedbacks. Okay. Learner is able to apply in real life. Continuous. Providing feedback. Quizzes. Age appropriate. Constructive feedback. Continuous process of assessment, evaluation, validity, application. Personalized reliability. Okay. I take the word reliability. Very good. Varied, transparent. Okay. Great. To know the areas of improvement, accurate, analyzing. Wonderful. That shows our audience is extremely engaged today and is very, very, very active. Great going, audience. We have a wonderful set of audience today. So some of the principles that I have pinned down today as a for good assessment are the purpose of that assessment. Identifying the purpose is important because we need to know the purpose to evaluate an assessment. We need to know if the different kinds of inferences made from the results are appropriate or not. Validity. Now, validity is another term which talks about in case of assessments, which and has a huge area of importance. It's the traditionally we can define validity as whether a test really measures what it purports to measure. This was given by Kelly in 1927, but recently by Isaacs et al. In 2013, it says the extent to which certain inferences can be made from an assessment's outcome. Reliability. If the same person has taken the test for the first time on another occasion, then they have got the same results. That is what reliability of an assessment is defined by NFER in 2001 report. Manageability of the assessment. It's a cost, the development, the administration, the marking, the staffing, space, equipment, and the time. Impact, the most important thing. How are we motivating the students with the assessment? Think about this. This is a food for thought for my audience today. Keep thinking about it. Are we using these principles as a good assessment practice? I'm sure many of us are doing. We move towards the circle, towards the inner fold of that golden circle, which was the theory devised by the Simon Sinek as to how, understanding the how of the assessment. And we have the different types of assessments over here, where we mostly talk about assessments like formative assessments and summative assessment. We are mostly doing these kinds of things in the classroom. Among the formative assessments and the summative assessments, we can divide them into the informal and the formal type. I have based this on the UK's National Foundation for Educational Research report, which is the NFER 2007 report, which classifies types of formative and summative assessment as to be either formal or informal. So among the formative assessments, the informal ones, we have the questioning, feedback, peer assessment, self-assessment. Among the formal category, we have the analysis doing the test, the exams, and the essays. For the summative assessment, in the informal category, we have essays in uncontrolled condition, the portfolios, the coursework, the teacher assessment. Among the formal category, we have the test and the exams and the essays in controlled conditions, all the term exams that we talk about. Apart from these, we also know that there is also a diagnostic test, which we all come across these days, the pre-teaching diagnostic feedback, which is there. And with this, what do we have? This can be for understanding the learning gaps which are there in the learner, which we need to understand before we start a lesson or before we start taking a class. This is something which is very important. With most, at times we tend to skip this thing, but we really need to include this thing within our lesson planning as well. The diagnostic test, understanding the learning gaps, understanding the strength of the learners, and accordingly make our lessons. We come to the innermost part of the circle as to why. That's the most important part. And that is why the golden circle by the Simon Sinek is so important. It talks about the what, how, and the why. So the why is what which answers all our questions, and why is necessary to be there in every single classroom, in the minds of every single learner. So if the learners want to know this why, we also need, as educators, as teachers, as facilitators, also need to understand the why of the system. So if we moved today from the outer circle to the inner core of the circle, understanding the what, how, and now the why. So we can do it the other way around mostly during our lessons as to why, and even for assessments as such, that why, how, and the what. Let's go into it, understanding the why. So why has there been a shift from this examination to assessment? Why are we talking about this shift also? Can we have some responses from the audience in the chat box? Why has this shift happened? Priyanka, I really want to thank you for putting in those quick links in the chat box. Okay, to include the 21st century skills. Wonderful. To achieve holistic development, to assess all-round development. Examinations are kind of stress for students. Absolutely, I agree to that. Holistic development, not leave any of the aspects, to be a child-centered approach, moved from global student. Assessment gives a broader view. We are not always valid or reliable to make learning more interesting. Critical thinking, wonderful. Okay, so to moving forward. So why the shift? To sum up all your points, it's a focus on comprehensive learning outcomes. A promotion of lifelong learner. It's exactly what all of you have said. I'm just collating those points and putting it. Reduction of stress and anxiety, enhancement of equity and inclusivity, which is the most important thing. Every learner in the classroom should feel equal. So if our learning styles are different, our assessment styles also need to be different today, and preparing them ultimately for the real world challenges. That is what which is unknown to all of us, and that is what we are aiming to in every single day in our classroom. different types of future assessments. If this is how the future, we don't know what the future is going to look like. And there has been an evolution in this new age assessment system. So let's see what are the different types of future assessment going to be. So there are a couple of things. We are going to use a lot of technology in our, as we are using it in a classroom. We are going to probably use a lot of these technologies in the assessment process as well. Adaptive learning platforms, gamified assessments, competency-based assessments, performance-based assessments, digital portfolios and e-portfolios, AI-driven assessment tools, virtual reality and augmented reality assessments, automated essay scoring, blockchain credentialing and micro credentials, and continuous and formative assessment practices. We are usually doing many, at times the continuous and formative assessment practices. A lot of other things are still under a lot of research that's going on. A lot of it has been included, but thinking forward or moving ahead forward and thinking of the evolution of the education system it's going to happen, and with the assessment we have these kinds of different platforms which talks about the use of technology in our classroom, in our lesson plan, and including them in the pedagogy about the different types of assessment. A few of them which I would like to share today, something like the adaptive learning platform. Think about learners are of different abilities, we always say, and that's what we talk about when we talk about student-centric learning. So if there is a assessment platform which tells that which gives assessment to the students as per their learning ability and their understanding or comprehending capability. So that means I suppose over here take one assessment, and Priyanka, I hope it's okay with you if I consider you as an example today in my webinar.
Sure.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Priyanka, for your consent. And Priyanka is another candidate, and both of us are students of the same class, of the same grade, and having doing the similar subjects, and we are taking an assessment in science maybe. So I start the assessment. Priyanka also starts the assessment. It's a computer-based assessment which is happening, and slowly the a platform understands that my learning ability or my comprehending ability not as at par with the kinds of questions that are coming. So that means maybe I'm scoring little low than what it is required, whereas Priyanka is getting the similar kind of scores that is there. So what happens with the next question that comes to me, it will come as per my ability. And for Priyanka, the ability that as a question comes as per her ability. So the algorithms are designed in such a way that the questions from to us are coming as per our ability, and that's what we talk about adaptive assessment, which adjusts difficulty levels, content, and pacing in real time to optimize learning outcomes. Something like a gamified assessment. Children are all hooked to games. Why don't we use this thing as our assessment tool? That of course helps them to motivate them, keeps them engaged, and they enjoy it. So assessments which gives them points, badges, those leaderboards, and something which helps them throughout the day to be hooked to it, as well as the assessment is done. That's great. Okay, so we have these some of these kinds of assessments which is there, like competency based assessment, again depends on the student need and not on the student age. We usually have question papers or assessments designed based on the age of the student. No, let it be on the need of the student now. So if these are the different kinds of the future assessment, how should we assess them? What could be the different assessment techniques? So let's think of prepare a rubric for these innovative assessment techniques. Now, all the this is just a skeleton that I have prepared over here, and of course, this can be customized and adapted depending on the specific assessment task, objective, grade level. It can be improvised and changed in whichever format you feel as an educator is required for your learners. I have put certain criterias like engagement and participation, application of knowledge and skill, critical thinking and problem solving, quality of work and performance, reflection and growth. So these are all what we talk about as the HOTS or the high order thinking skills. So when we talk about the assessments in the future, that means we have already considered that the memory or the knowledge and the understanding is there with the learner. So what we build upon is on their higher order thinking skills, and we assess and test their higher order thinking skills. So depending on that, I have just put some of these points, this which can be of course be modified and changed as per the need that is there. But of course it should be emphasizing on critical thinking, engagement, knowledgeable reflection, and the growth in the learner. What do we as educators then need to do? If there is a whole change or an evolution or a shift in the assessment scenario, we as educators need to have the implementation with agility. The pathway the educator should follow to bring in the change for future assessment: stay informed, we say. We need to stay updated about the current trends and research and best practices in the assessment. Of course, talk about it and on online forums or on offline forums, and take some professional development courses so that we are well equipped to conduct these kinds of assessment. We must keep on collaborating. We must keep on collaborating and networking. May I request Priyanka to put a link on the chat box for this? There's a quick link that is there. Priyanka, is it visible to you?
I have shared the link.
Oh, okay, thank you so much, Priyanka. So it's the collaborating and networking and exchanging ideas. Let's experiment with these kinds of assessment tools in our classroom and adapt to it, and let's see how the changes happen. Experiments may not always have positive results, but let's not stop over there. There can be negative results as well, and accordingly we will change our hypothesis and restart with our research and come with something new. Access resources. There are a huge number of online resources and platforms which are present. Let us all share it among us and integrate technology within our classroom in our day-to-day assessment. This is a continuous process which is there, where reflection is necessary. Reflection, let us take reflection from our peers, from our learners, from our students, and refine and improve our areas. Advocacy and leadership. Advocate for the adoption of innovative assessment practices within your school, district, or educational institution. And let's share our experiences, success, and challenges with colleagues and administer to build a support for change. Take on leadership roles within our institution or community to champion the implementation of effective assessment strategies. Let's be proactive and bring about a change in the assessment and help and enhance the teaching and learning process. And of course, think about our learning outcomes. When we talk about the outcomes, what about this? The post assessment feedback, of course, which is very, very important. It helps us evaluating the learners, identifying their gaps, reinforcement of learning, motivation. Of course, the motivating the learners is most important. Are they really motivated? Adjustment of teaching methods. Depending on these assessment tools for the results that we get, let's change our teaching methodologies. Enhancement of self-regulation. So we have a lot of smileys. So some of them are really the grumpy ones and smiling ones. So let's keep changing that and bring a smile on the face of every single learner. Fostering communication. Assessments, of course, will bring about communication in the classroom, and that is what, although the AIs will keep coming in, the artificial intelligence is a very important technology at present, but in spite of that, we need to build up that communication skill and inside our classroom during our teaching learning process. And all these things will lead to something called the quality improvement, where feedback loops contribute to the continuous improvement of educational programs and materials. By analyzing feedback, data instructions can identify trends, strength, weakness, leading to targeted improvements. So in a nutshell, we can say that post-assessment feedback is integral as it supports evaluation, identifies areas for improvement, motivates our learners, improves teaching practices, foster communication, contributes to ongoing quality enhancement. We can see the bulb glowing, the head starts with a question mark, and with the clarity, the bulb glows and there is an exclamation mark. So the learner is satisfied now. So with this, we come almost to the end of it. Any thoughts, concerns, or ideas that you would like to share today in the forum? We are all ready here to listen. Before leaving, please give your review and reflect. May I request Priyanka to please put the link for the form,
I have.
reflection form. Audience, you can just scan the QR code also and fill in the form. It will just take a minute for all of you to reflect on the session. I have a lot of these further study materials. I thought they will be very, very helpful for each one of you. You can watch these videos or read these articles and blogs which are there. Priyanka will help us share this in the chat box very soon. You can keep
Shared.
them with
Yes.
you. Wow. Wonderful, Priyanka. Priyanka has been extremely proactive. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for helping with this.
Yes. So we open the floor for the Q&A session. Before this, I would request all of you to kindly take a look at the links shared. The number of links have been shared. Kindly take a look at that. And Barnali, what more can I say? In this day and age, when assessment and examination, often people confuse between the validity, the importance, the relevance of both terms. You have really stirred the hornet's nest, made people think. As you can see through the engagement, the tremendous engagement that we have on the platform, you've really opened the box and taken people out of the box to rethink what does assessment mean, what does evaluation mean. Thank you for creating that curiosity in us today. So thank you so much, Barnali. And the floor is open for the Q&A. Barnali, the Google form is not working. So that's the feedback. The feedback form. Maybe you're on mute, Barnali.
Oops, so sorry. I think somebody wrote it's working. Link is, just give me a minute. I'll just check. I'll just check at the back end.
Sure.
If that's possible.
Sure, please. And kindly put in the Q&A. This is the time. Many of you have already asked very important questions in the Q&A box. Could you please put in your questions here? Barnali, we have really important questions coming in.
Yes, yes.
The first question is, while taking formative assessment in the form of worksheet for lower grades, what is the best option? Writing down feedback on worksheet or writing down the points on the worksheet? This is a question from Ishrat.
Okay, could you just repeat once more?
Yes. While taking formative assessment in the form of worksheet for lower grades, what
Yes.
is the best option? To write down the feedback on worksheet or to write down the points on the worksheet?
Yeah, it's so what you can do is you can give the feedback in form of points. Let it be a very constructive feedback, and please give the feedback in form of points in the worksheet itself, so that the child understands that what it is. And of course, since you're talking about the lower grades, please explain the feedback to the child so that the child knows exactly where should the child need to improve. So the areas of improvement should be known to the child, and slowly this way I think we will be able to build a student who are much more independent in their learning.
Sure. The next question is from Baishali Nandi. What approach should we follow for summative assessment if students are not comfortable for essay type or descriptive assessment and find it challenging? Can this be replaced by project based and MCQs for practical knowledge enhancement?
Oh yes, it can be. That is what we are thinking about for the future that is there, that the assessments will be based on the kind of learner. If the learner has a different kind of an ability, based on the learner, let's design our assessments. That's what the future will be looking like.
Wonderful. There's a question from Piyu Mahapatra. Can we get a few more ideas of incorporating gamification in different subjects?
Okay, so may I request ma'am to get in touch with me? Yes, so of course there are a lot of these platforms available, which is there, online platforms for these gamified assessments, where you can use them in your regular classroom learning methodologies.
Thanks, Barnali. Many questions are pouring in. I'll just take
Okay.
some of them
Yes, please.
in the interest of time. So, what is the best way to assess a specially abled child? It is from Chandrima ma'am.
Best way to assess a specially
Specially abled
able
child.
child.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a very, very important thing, I would say, because every child is different over here. And with the children who have these special needs, we first need to understand what is the need of the child, or what is the kind of difficulty the child faces while taking an assessment. Based on that, the assessment should be designed. I think yesterday itself I was discussing this with someone. Remember, Priyanka?
Yes.
We were discussing this, and we are talking about these kinds of things, that if we take the help of our special need educators, and if we see that how what are the difficulty levels of the child, and accordingly design the assessment. Suppose if a child and we talk about access arrangements, which Cambridge gives a lot of it, and if the child is having difficulty in the writing speed, maybe there can be a scribe who writes it. Extra time is given to child, and it will help in the learning. The child maybe is good in speaking, maybe not good in writing. Okay, fine. Let's take the oral assessment for this child. We have something called oracy also. I hope that
Wonderful.
answers the
Yes.
question.
Thanks, Varnali. We have another very interesting question from Astrid Sharon. Training is key, and easy access to resources is very important. We often struggle with this in school, especially with new teachers. How does Cambridge propose to ensure that this system is robust?
Could you repeat the question? I couldn't follow it
Yes.
quite well. It's a long one.
So, I will just shorten it a bit. We
Yes.
often struggle with resources and training, especially with regards to new teachers. How does Cambridge propose to ensure that this system is robust?
Okay, now if you go through the professional development calendar in the Cambridge website, there are a lot of different kinds of trainings that are there. There is the focus on teaching, focus on learning, focus on assessment. All these things are available in the professional development calendar. Please check that. It is there under support and training for schools. Priyanka, in between, may I request you to please put the link for the form? I have sent it to you. If you could just check it once on your personal chat,
Sure.
on your personal number, rather. Could you just share that?
Can you just put it in the Teams chat, please? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let me see. Yeah.
Okay. The next question that we can address right now is adaptive learning limited to having a LMS, or can be created by us as well? If yes, how it can be shared? How we can suggest ways to do that is what the question is from Sheetal Shah. I repeat the question, Barnali. Is
Yes.
adaptive learning limited to having an LMS, or can it be created by us as well? If yes, how can you share?
Adaptive learning, it will depend on, again, on the learner, how the learner is. So it will keep on changing and shifting between one learner to the other. So of course, Priyanka, I've put the
Yes,
link
I
on
have
the.
put in the link in the chat box for this
Okay.
particular webinar, right? For
Okay. Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Could my audience please just fill up that form? I think there was a bit of a technical glitch over there. Sorry for that. So does that answer your question, ma'am? The adaptive learning, it will again depend on the kind of learner who is there, and based on that, let us design it for the learner.
Right. We'll take two last questions.
Yes.
One is from Alekhya.
Mhm.
What kind of assessments should be taken to improvise the descriptive writing for learners?
What kind of as a descriptive writing? I had showed
I'll
about
repeat.
something. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
repeat. What kind of assessments should be taken to improvise upon the descriptive writing part for learners?
Assess now for descriptive writing, there we have something which I okay, if I go back into my slides, there in one of them there was something called an automated essay scoring among the different types of learners that is there. So in the assessment, the
Right.
automated essay scoring, now this is a tool which helps us to assess the essay, that descriptive essay, as per the rubric that is there. So our work really becomes quite simpler that way, and these are some of the things which are coming up in the near future. I'm not talking about things like chat gpt or grammarly, which does a very generic kind of scoring or an correction maybe that is there. But there are some other platforms which takes certain specific rubrics and does the uh, marking as per that specific rubric. So automated essay scoring, you can read a little bit about it, and I'm sure there are a lot of links which I have shared. Among that also, you will get some idea on this topic. Yes,
Thanks,
Priyanka.
Barnali. In the interest of time, one last question. And
Yes.
just to let you know, the link has some problem. So we'll try
Oh,
to share the link. We
uh,
have your email IDs with us. We'll try
yes.
to share the link there. Okay, don't worry about that. So the
Okay.
last question is a very interesting question, Barnali. Uh, if we give, it's from Nidhi, if we give positive feedback to one child,
Mhm.
if we, for example, if we give a smiling face to a child for his outstanding performance, the
Mhm.
other child feels bad.
Mhm.
What should be done in that case? That's a very wonderful
Wow,
question.
beautiful. Yes, we often think about this. Now, something like feedback. Feedback is very, very important. Now, what kind of feedback should we talk about? We'll not talk about positive feedback or negative feedback. We'll talk about constructive feedback. And in constructive feedback, we talk about feedback about the work, not about emotion. So let's keep our emotions aside, because that can bring in differentiation among the students and the children. And some feel sad, some feel good, some feel happy, angry. Different kinds of emotions come in. Emotions are not to be brought over here. So it's about constructive feedback, which we must practice in our classroom and give feedback based on the learning, on the task, on the work that is there, instead of giving feedback of emotions. I think that answers the question, Priyanka.
Yes, wonderfully so. Barnali, I think looking at the enthusiasm, even though we have overshot the time, I
Oh,
think it was a
yes.
wonderfully productive, engaging, and thoroughly informative session. Thank you everyone for joining in. We'll ensure that the feedback form is sent to you. Thank you for sharing your email IDs as well. Thank you for joining in the evening, post your entire day at work. We really appreciate your enthusiasm and your questions and your engagement. And thank you, Barnali, once again for this tremendously informative and wonderful session and for going through all these questions and answering them to our best. Thank you so much, Barnali, once again. And thank you, everyone, for joining in. It was wonderful interacting with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Priyanka. And thank you to the wonderful, engaging, and proactive audience that we had today. It was excellent to see everybody so engaged with and so passionate and enthusiastic about even after that whole day of engaging in the school. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.